Let's look at some tips for working with effects in Adobe Premiere Pro. I'm going to work with this example sequence. You can easily add a dissolve by right-clicking the edge of a clip. It adds the default transition, a dissolve for 30 frames. You can always change the length of that transition in the preferences. Now take a look at these two clips. Notice the white corner of the clip in the timeline? This indicates that the very last frame, or the very first frame, is being used in the clip. Dissolves and other transitions rely on using frames in the source that exist beyond the length of the clip on the timeline. We call those extra frames handles. Both of these clips have no handles. When I right-click and choose the default, I get this dialog box. It's creating a repeated frame, freezing that last frame. Yes, it creates the transition, but it gives you this warning to let you know about it. You can avoid this by using in and out points on source clips when you bring them to the timeline, and avoiding when possible using the first or last second of any clip. Now to fix it, I'm going to use the blade tool here on each clip and shorten them. Then delete the resulting gap. Now when I add the transition, there's no freeze frame and no warning needed. Other transitions can be found in the Effects panel. Selecting it, I can roll open the Video Transitions and the Dissolve category. Let's add a dip to black. You can drag and drop it, and you can even replace the existing one on the timeline. Let's see that play back. Let's open back up the Ella Luna sequence. Adding clip effects is just as easy as adding transitions. They're all drag and drop. On this clip at about 1 minute 25 seconds, I'd like to add something a little extra, like a lens flare. I'm going to click here on the Effects panel. Scrolling down, I'm going to roll open the Generate category. I'm going to grab the lens flare and add it to the clip. Well, it looks great. It's a little too strong, and I'd like to change the position of the flare itself. We're going to need to find the Effect Controls panel to do that. It's next to the Source panel. Here you can adjust any clip or transition you have selected in the timeline. There are always some built-in effects. The motion effect, which controls scale, rotation, and position. The opacity effect, which has blend modes that Photoshop fans will love. Now you can play with any of these and click the hook arrow, a reset button, that's located to the right of every effect or parameter setting. To delete any added effect, select it and press the Delete or Backspace key on your keyboard. Let's undo that so we restore the lens flare that I added. I'm going to start with scrubbing the center of the flare. Scrubbing is clicking and dragging on the numbers, not just clicking. If you've clicked and it looks like you're ready to type, you need to click off of it and try again. A more direct way to adjust the lens flare is to click here on the square with the tiny pointer to the left of the word lens flare. I'm now able to directly move the center of the lens flare to the upper left so it looks like natural light. And then I'm going to lessen the entire effect by using the Blend with Original setting. It's like an opacity for just this effect. I'm going to scrub it to about this value so it looks natural. After you add enough effects to your clips, even the fastest computer will slow down and drop frames when you play back your sequence. If you're playing your timeline and it stutters or drops frames, the first thing to do is to go to the program monitor and drop the playback quality. I usually work with it at a quarter quality when I'm playing high-definition sequences. Sequences larger than high def will show 1/8 and 1/16 resolution playback options. Now, this only affects the playback. The pausing and output will always be at full resolution. Notice the colors on the top of the timeline. Your colors may not look like mine. It's specific to your computer's CPU and GPU. Yellow means your graphics processor is handling it, and red means it's handled by the CPU. If you're dropping frames at a quarter resolution, you may find that rendering, that is, having the computer figure out the result, makes smooth, real-time playback easier. There are, though, a number of situations like very slow hard drives where even this may not fix things. Just select your clip, go up to the Sequence menu, and choose Render Selection. After it's done, the bar will turn green, meaning your effect is rendered.
I didn't know where it was going to lead, and I didn't know how it was going to unfold.
While everything in this project is high definition, that is 1920 by 1080 pixels, most photography is larger. For example, I'm going to drag this photo into my timeline. We don't see the whole photo. That's because Premiere Pro leaves the photo scale alone. It's actually bigger than our high definition picture, so we need to scale it down. Premiere Pro has a very quick way to set the scale so you can see the entire photo. Right-click on the photo clip in the timeline and choose Set to Frame Size. The scale is now set so we can see the entire image. High definition video has the proportion 16 by 9. Most photography doesn't match this. You have to decide whether you want to see black bars or scale it up a little, cutting off some of the image. That's what I want in this case, so let's fix the scaling. I'll go over to the Effects Control panel, open the Motion section if it's not already open, and see what the value is. It's at about 54%. I'm going to click the small rectangle to the left of the word Motion to see the outline on screen. Those control points permit direct adjustment. I'm just going to scrub it a little higher like this until the image fits the screen. Well, I like the still, but I'd like it to have it scaled up over time, give it the illusion of some motion. We need to animate it. An animation is 2 points in time, one where the scale is a little smaller and another where it's larger. To build this, I'm going to move my playhead here in the Effects Control panel to the left until it's at the very left side. There's a stopwatch next to the word Scale. Clicking the stopwatch does two things. It tells Premiere Pro that I'm going to animate the scale value, and it sets the first key moment in time, otherwise known as a key frame. I move my playhead later in time in the Effects Control panel. When I touch the scale value, not the stopwatch, but the numbers, it sets a second keyframe automatically. I'm going to set it to 75%. When I play it back, it now seems to grow larger, as if I was moving a camera closer. That's a basic concept for animation, smoothly changing the state between two discrete moments in time. This can be done with any value that has a stopwatch, position, rotation, or any parameter of any effect. I'd be remiss if I didn't show you how to make some color adjustments, right? I'm going to move the playhead to the clip at 143 and select the clip of the woman painting. Adobe has incorporated some Lightroom-like controls to color adjustments that appeal to professionals. I'm only going to scratch the surface here. The effect is called the Lumetri Color effect. It's such an important effect that there's a dedicated workspace for it. When you click over to the color workspace, you're set up for color correction and adjustment. On the left, you may see this Lumetri Scopes panel. These scopes are used by professionals to provide objective measurement and color values. You will also see the Lumetri Color panel on the right side of your screen. The Lumetri Color panel will automatically add the Lumetri Color effect for us, meaning we don't have to add it ourselves. Just to see this in action, click on the Effect Control panel. Close up any other effects that are open. Select the top category in the Lumetri Color panel. It's called Basic Correction. There's a temperature color adjuster, just like in Photoshop Lightroom. I'm going to warm up this picture by adding a little bit of orange. All I need to do is drag the temperature in that direction. And as I do it, the shot becomes warmer in nature. And look over the Effects Control panel. It just automatically added a Lumetri Color effect. There's even a white balance eyedropper. Click on something you know is neutral. That should be white or gray, like the top left corner of her painting here. There's loads to explore in color correction and color adjustment. Feel free to play with what you've learned. When you're done, make sure you click back in the Editing Workspace button here at the top to restore your interface for basic editing. And that's how you work with effects in Premiere Pro.